Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your August 2nd, your Tuesday evening cattle industry headlines. Brought to you by 4T Ag Insurance, your go-to contractor for ag insurance. 4T Ag is owned and operated by Colt Tritt. He is a one-man show, and he himself ranches, so he understands all the risks that go along with the livestock industry. 4T Ag, they offer LRPs for both fed and feeder cattle. They offer PRF insurance and just about any other insurance option out there. To learn more about the company, head on over to www.4tag.net. That is the number 4tag.net. We are also sponsored by Circle 5 Cow School. If you are wanting to learn how to preg check your own cows or start AIing, Circle 5 Cow School is definitely the way to go. Almost every week, they are hosting classes somewhere between Texas and Tennessee. They do a fantastic job. To check out their schedule, head on over to circle5cowschool.com. That is the number 5 in there, or you can go ahead and just give them a follow on Facebook. According to Successful Farming, last Thursday, President Biden introduced a spending package, which is a bill titled Inflation Reduction Act. This bill would enable the next farm bill to be climate focused. Biden referred to the bill as the most significant legislation in history to tackle the climate crisis, and he claims that it will improve America's energy security immediately. We should all be concerned that this bill is going to enable the next farm bill to be climate focused, and furthermore, and we won't dive into this, furthermore, this Inflation Reduction Act, this is going to raise taxes significantly for the middle class. Despite what this administration says, this will be incredibly detrimental to what you pay for taxes. So the package includes $20 billion for voluntary conservation practices on the farm, such as cover crops to sequester greenhouse gases, in soils, plants, and trees. It also includes $14 billion in rural spending and $5 billion for forests. According to Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, this package is expected to be voted on next week. The bill would extend or expand tax credits for sustainable aviation, fuel, carbon capture, biodiesel, and renewable diesel. According to Growth Energy, they are a trade group. In order for the U.S. to meet its climate goals, the volume of low-carbon biofuels must be quickly expanded and made available across the entire transportation sector, from ground to sea to air, all of it. As we all know, Biden has proposed reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2030. And he expects farmers and ranchers across the U.S. to deploy cutting-edge tools to make the soil of the heartland of the next frontier in carbon innovation. In total, the bill includes $369 billion in climate and energy initiatives and has quite a few similarities to the Build Back Better bill that Biden and the Democrats tried to push through last year, but they ultimately failed. The Washington Examiner has also reported on the Inflation Reduction Act that we were just speaking about, and they are emphasizing the fact that the bill includes funding to address enteric methane emissions from ruminants, including finding alternatives to animals' diets. We've seen numerous technological advances to reduce enteric methane emissions, including filtering masks for cows' noses and feed alternatives. A feed supplement developed by Dutch bioscience company BSM reduced methane emissions in dairy cows by 30%, and in beef cattle, it reduced methane emissions by 80%. At the University of California, Davis, researchers discovered that introducing seaweed into cattle feed can reduce methane emissions from beef cattle by as much as 82%. But the problem with these discoveries is that none of these additives have been approved for use here in the United States. So for quite a few years, we all know this, climate policy has been focusing on cow farts and penalizing the consumption of beef. They essentially want to penalize you for consuming beef. And this became incredibly apparent after the introduction of the controversial Green New Deal by radical left-wing Democrats back in 2019. So the Daily Wire has also reported on climate change and agriculture. The Biden administration recently released an EPA study claiming that farmland emissions kill nearly 20,000 Americans every year, and new reforms are needed to prevent further deaths. The study is funded by a $10 million grant awarded by the Obama administration's EPA. Imagine that. The study claims to have examined fine dust and soot emissions from all farm operations, such as machinery, tilling, fertilizer use, field burning, livestock movement, waste management, etc. Basically, everything that we do on our operations that produce dust, they feel that that is killing Americans. This study should alarm all of us, and the fact that the Biden administration is going along with it, believing that what we are doing out here in agriculture is killing Americans. In recent weeks, I have reported on what the government in the Netherlands, what the government in Canada, Ireland, what all those governments are doing they're putting forward these proposals to reduce their ag industries in their countries because they feel that ag is the problem. And I agree, this is not happening in our country. We aren't having these proposals come forward yet. But it is only a matter of time before the federal government steps in and comes forward with a proposal that will want to reduce our industry. And it is incredibly worrisome to see these other countries do what they are doing. It is incredibly worrisome to see these EPA studies come out. Incredibly worrisome to see these bills come forward within Congress that are climate focused, because you know the first industry they're going to go after, it's going to be agriculture. We are always used as a scapegoat when it comes to climate change, and we should all be very concerned about the whole situation. This update is also sponsored by Ag Risk Advisors. They manage your risk so you can manage your operation. They are the experts in educating, evaluating, and executing risk management programs for each individual operation, while also providing top-notch customer service. Now is the time to be thinking about enrolling in the Pasture Rangeland Forage Program for the 2023 crop year. If you're interested in learning more about this, go ahead and reach out to Alex and Nea, and he can set you up a tracking policy so that you can understand how the program works firsthand. Ag Risk Advisors, risks averted, legacies preserved. Meeting Place has reported last week U.S. Representative David Scott, a Democrat from Georgia, introduced the Small Family Farmer and Rancher Relief Act. This act would boost premium insurance subsidies for small ranchers, create a USDA indemnity program based on a spread with retail beef prices, and establish a grant program to help small producers add value to and market meat products. So when this news came out, NCBA immediately came out with a press release, and the cattle organization appreciates Scott's attention to this important issue, but they believe this piece of legislation prompts more questions than it provides answers. NCBA would have preferred to provide input into the drafting of this bill, but nonetheless, they look forward to working with their partners in the livestock community to address the blind spots in this proposal. That is all I have for you guys for news. That is all I have for you guys this week. I'm taking off for Red Lodge, Montana tomorrow. I have a speaking engagement up there, and I will not be back until next week. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Stay cool. It is awfully miserable here in central Nebraska. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week.